You sent her the test and you said, what do we do first?
Yes.
Here's the thing. My mom's Super Bowl is her having a grandchild.
So we then transition from surprise baby announcement to the history of 6 million Jews being murdered by Adolf Hitler.
And he's like, you need an OBGYN. And Harrison just gets up and leaves the room because it doesn't feel real until you get those little baby pictures, the ones people Instagram. Welcome back to another episode of Just Alex. I'm Alex. I'm here with Harrison. Just say hi, and then I'll have a little one-on-one time with him.
Hello.
Great. You guys, today I'm just going to hop right into it. Today is one of the most exciting days of my life because I get to share with you all something that I'm so excited about, that we're so excited about, and that is that I'm going to be a mom and Harrison's going to be a dad.
Here we go.
And we practiced this last night because I'm pregnant. We're having a baby, although I think we're pregnant, but whatever. He thinks it's me. I mean, it is me. I am clearly the one holding the child, but we're having a baby. It's half you, half me.
Half you, half me.
Wow. It's so funny because I feel like I just, really unloaded some news on you all, but it's something that we've known for the past 4 months. And it's been a really sweet and special time. Just the two of us and our families know, and some of our close friends know, and we've really enjoyed it together. But listen, the purpose of Just Alex from the get-go was I wanted to lay the groundwork of my past, right? So you heard about my past in the first 3 episodes through the lens of me, through Harrison, and then through my parents. And that was important for me to get that out there because that's an important part of who I am moving forward. It's where my strength comes from. Your past is who you are today, right? So getting that groundwork laid. And then now, I didn't know what episode we were going to do the baby announcement on, but I knew it would be 4, 5, or 6. Lo and behold, it's 4. We're sitting here today.
With a nice little nudge from the internet.
A nice little, as they do. And so we were like, all right, it's going to be episode 4. And I feel this massive weight lifted off my shoulders. And I know Harrison and I it's obviously not the traditional path. Heck, you could say we're doing things a bit backwards. But I'm really proud of us and we're really happy. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, is life doesn't have to look like a certain way. It can look this way and it can still be just as beautiful and just as fun.
You had a great line at breakfast today. And it was, I don't want to live life to be traditional. I want to live life to be happy, even if being happy isn't doing things the traditional way.
Yes. And I meant that. And I think when you share your struggles, it gives other people permission to share theirs too, right? And that's what this podcast in a nutshell means to me. So whether that was the past struggles or, being pregnant out of wedlock is one way to put it. And it's like, some people could interpret that as that's not good. And it's like, to us, it's beautiful. It's our path. It's what we're doing. And we're embracing that and we love it.
And it's been an unbelievable experience to watch, Alex before pregnancy to Alex during pregnancy, and how much your life has changed, with how much you've taken on both personally and professionally. And I'm really happy for you that you're now finally able to get it off your chest and bring your listeners into the journey with you.
All the sweatpants I've been wearing finally make sense.
Finally adds up.
I used to love, only one of my friends asked me, I used to love wearing, you guys know, those blazers with those tall boots. It's like my staple. And one of my friends was like, we haven't seen those lately. And I was like, isn't that funny? Just can't even get those zipped.
Wearing a lot of my clothes.
Oh yeah, it's great. That's the best part about it. And a lot of repeat offender on the outfits. Just one sweat. Now I can pack in a carry-on, just one sweatsuit. So today,
what do you want to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about how we got here. Because I think the $1 million question for the listener is, were you guys trying or was this an accident? So we'll get into that. And then telling our parents and then where we are today.
Let's go.
Okay, no time like the present. So when Harrison came on 2 episodes ago, I think we did a pretty good job of explaining how serious things were, but maybe not all the way. And one story that really drives this home is so we meet in November, have our first date.
November 4th.
And then I'm in Vegas in December, middle of December, for National Finals Rodeo. Harrison comes and he meets me there because we're going to go to a Vikings game. And if you look at my camera scroll during this time period when we're in Vegas, there's a bunch of screenshots of Pinterest weddings in Vegas. And I'm like, planning the second wedding. I've got my dress, the cake, because what we had kept talking about was, oh, are we going to get married in Vegas? Like, we had so many conversations of like, listen, you're 35, I'm 30, you're it too. We want to do this thing together. Why wait?
And it was funny. It was probably like maybe 2 weeks ahead of the trip. The first comment around Vegas marriage was dropped. And I don't know if it was you or it was me. And then like once one of us put that into the ether, the conversation just kept building and building and building until like it really felt like we may get married that weekend.
And the only reason we didn't was because our families weren't there. And we were like, that'll just crush our parents. It would be more selfish at this point to get married there than to not. And we had the wherewithal to realize that. But
even so, I can say, looking back on it, that throughout that weekend, up until we got on the plane, I was expecting one of us to convince the other to get in an Uber, go to the chapel, and tie the knot.
And there would have been no convincing. All it was going to take was, hey, I called the Uber. Like, okay, great. Neither of us. We've always kind of had that one gives an inch and the other's like, thank you. So while we decided not to get married in Vegas, what we did decide in Vegas was 2 things. One is, all right, 6 months from now, Harrison's mom's 70th birthday is going to be in Mallorca, Spain. From there, we were going to go to Paris for my birthday, July 1st. Paris, obviously a special place in both of our hearts and our relationship. Like, it's where we really started talking. So we were like, we'll get married in Paris. How about that? We've got a 6-month runway from now until then. We'll have met each other's families. That'll be perfect. The other thing we decided was also, if it's you and it's me, why don't we start trying to have a kid now? Because we know we want to have a family together, and we're taking time bombs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, on average, takes you 6 to 12 months for a person to get pregnant, and so mindset being start now, and hopefully sometime shortly after the wedding, you are on your way and carrying a child.
And we even had the conversation as far into at the end of that year mark, if I'm not able to get pregnant, start the IVF process or whatever that looks like. Because we've seen that there's no rule book on how this stuff happens. Yeah,
and when we just looked around, I think growing up, when you're hooking up with people, like getting someone pregnant was always my greatest fear. And then the minute you find the one, your greatest fear quickly becomes them not being able to get pregnant. And one of the things that we've really seen between a lot of our friends is just how hard it is for them to conceive. And so, we've really figured, why wait? And, did we ever expect it to be month 1? No. And we feel very fortunate that it was, especially in the context of how that really isn't the case for most people, and many where it's a massive, massive struggle that still isn't spoken enough about. And so we have that, conversation coming out of Vegas, and life goes back to normal for not very long.
For a second.
For a good 3-4 weeks.
Yep. We went to Miami. And And then we go from Miami to LA, back where Harrison lives at the time. I love palm trees. Like I say, my happiest time is below the palm trees. I love to walk when we're out in LA. I got a big pep in my step out in LA. But we get out there and I wake up on this one Monday and I'm like flat. I mean, depressed, flat, nothing happening. And I tell you, and you're like, oh, does this happen to you often? And I'm like, not really. But if it does, it lasts about 24 hours.
Yeah, and it was a real night and day difference between, that Monday morning and every day that we'd had in the relationship heretofore, where we were riding high, and then one day everything just seems to change.
And so I tell Harrison, I'm like, listen, I'll be like this for 24 hours probably, and I'll shake it. So Monday happens, flat. Tuesday I wake up, and I remember we walked outside to walk to a coffee shop, and I looked at him and I was like, oh my God. And I started crying, and I was like, oh, I still feel flat. And I was like, oh, I'm like so depressed and just, ugh. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. It's really weird that it's day number 2. I tried to walk. Like I really tried to get out of it. And on Tuesday, because we were trying, Harrison's like, take a pregnancy test. Let's see. So I take it. It's negative. And that for me was really disheartening because if I can't place what's wrong, then I think it's just me and I go even darker. And so Tuesday, Harrison goes to the office. I was usually a nomad going to coffee shop and just stay home. Wednesday rolls around. I wake up and I'm just can barely get out of bed. You go for the day. I call my mom and I just put her on speakerphone. I get 2 bowls of cereal. I dump them 2 separate bowls and I get the jar of peanut butter and I'm not using milk. I'm just using the peanut butter as like a caramel apple and I'm just dipping it in both of them. And I'm just eating the cereal off the stick of the peanut butter. And about 1 p.m. I walk upstairs and I just get in bed and I'm just crying and I send Harrison a selfie and I'm like, I've never been in bed at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday and I'm going to take a nap. And I'm not pregnant, so I don't know what's wrong with me. And Harrison sees that. He comes home and you wake me up around 2 or 3 and you're like, hey, let's go for a walk. But before the walk, take the pregnancy test just to see. And I'm like, I'm not going to be pregnant. We already know that. So I take the pregnancy test and it's, one line pops up. I just set it on top of the toilet and I'm like, ugh. And Harrison says, let's go on a walk. Let's go try and walk this off and let's talk. So we walk 26,000 steps and I'm just crying the whole time. We're not talking. And he's looking at me like, how long is this thing going to last? Because this is not great. And I'm telling him like, I don't know what's wrong. We walked to the proper hotel in Santa Monica. And, it's 6, 7 p.m. We order dinner, bunch of Aperol spritzes, still trying to figure it out because the next day in the afternoon, we're going to Washington, D.C. for Harrison to meet my family for the first time. So we go back to Harrison's place and we're going to start packing and I'm still just blah. And I walk in to wash my face to the bathroom and on top of the toilet where I had set the pregnancy test, there was the second line very faintly. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I picked it up and I walked into the room and I was like, I think there's a second line, but I don't know if the faint line means it counts.
And it was so faint that you almost thought that, hey, maybe we left it out too long and that's what happens when left unattended. And so we pull out good old Google. And the website is very, very clear with this. And that is, if you see any form of second line, there is no doubt about it, you are pregnant. Now, the faint line generally implies that the hormone that they're testing for is less present and it's earlier on in the pregnancy process. And so as such, it's probably, you're probably at a riskier phase in the pregnancy, but no doubt about it, binary, you are pregnant. And so Alex is pregnant.
And we were like, when we read that, I was relieved because I was like, that's why this is happening. And we were excited. It was like the sweetest moment. You took a picture of the test. I was like, I'm pregnant, boom, done. And Harrison's like, I don't know about that second faint line.
So yeah, it was like, I'd say a very fair, like dual reaction. One, relief as we know what's up, and then two, excitement because, this was something that we were trying for.
And so we go to bed that night and we wake up the next morning. Pause. What we had been doing with these pregnancy tests, I think if you read the directions, it says wait 5 to 10 minutes. We were just waiting 1 second. I would pee on it, look at it, and then set it down and be like, not pregnant, and I would just leave. So I probably had 3 pregnancy tests in the trash can that said pregnant, but we never even looked at them. I'm not big on directions.
And neither am I. Yeah, I would love to know that. Because it was so faint, I feel like it could have been, that actually could have been the first time it played out.
We don't know.
We will never know.
We just toss them in the trash. But this one I happened to sit on top of the toilet. And then we went on the walk. We came back and we see it. So next morning we wake up and we don't leave for the airport to go to DC to meet my family till about 2 p.m. So we get up and the first thing Harrison's like, take another pregnancy test because I don't know about that faint line, even though Google says take it. And even then was the line a little darker.
No, it was significantly darker.
Yeah. And that solidified it.
Yep. And then we go to that breakfast and we go into action planning mode.
Yeah. Harrison says, let's go down the street to this cafe, sit, and let's map out our life. He gets out a piece of paper. He's like, where do you want to live? And we decide there we'll do New York with a little hybrid in Miami, which we now know we've destroyed that plan. But at the time it
sounded good. And then
we were like playing MASH. Remember that back in the day where you plan your life on MASH, MASH? Nope. You never played MASH?
No.
That's not made it to Canada.
Yeah. I would assume that we don't have it.
Yeah, you must not. Yeah. You plan your life in a little game.
Okay. We can do that today.
Well, we do it all the time. And that's what we did that day. We played MASH and you're like, where do you want to live? And I was like, New York / Miami. And then you sent a photo of the pregnancy test to your sister. You just texted it to her.
Because that's how I communicate. And we needed to get the doctor process in motion. And my sister is a very resourceful person. So we didn't even know we just sent her, his sister has Precious baby. She said, Mama, you sent her the test and you said, what do we do first? Yes. She's like, Dr. Einstein. Yes. That's probably something we can get into a little later on. So get the flywheel going on the doctor. But then I think the big thing that we had to talk through was we were getting on a flight to go meet her parents in DC. And that was the first time I'd ever met them. And so I'm generally speaking good with parents. I could even say I'm very good with parents, but I'm not knock your daughter up pre-marriage 2 months in meeting her good with parents. And so we had to game plan what that weekend would be, when we tell them, and so on and so forth.
I mean, yeah, Tom Brady's not like good in that scenario. That's like my mom's like number one guy. And if he's like, I knocked up your daughter, they'd be like, the fuck?
Yeah. And so things as were alluded to last episode with their parents, they already were on semi-rocky, how do you say it? There were things around semi-rocky terms.
Yeah.
And so the decision we'd made at breakfast was, let's go through the weekend. Let's not tell them. And let's just like get the relationship going on a good foot. And then we'll fly to Oklahoma City at some point in the following weeks and tell them once, there's a level of comfort with both of us, with the whole group.
And I'm like, that's the best plan on the planet. And then we get on the airplane and halfway through, I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I just look over to Harrison and I tap him and I'm like, take your headphone off. And he's like, what? I'm like, we're going to tell them when we land.
And the thing about Alex is when she makes up her mind, generally speaking, it's really hard to change her mind. And so now I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, this girl wants me to get off the plane, shake her father's hand, and then have her hug her mother, and then have her blurt that she's expecting a child out of wedlock. And I'm just like, no. So we land and we get off the plane.
We're landing at the same time as my parents. We both wanted to land at 9 p.m.
And Alex's father, unbelievable man. And for those who have listened to him on the pod, I'm sure you can tell he's the type of guy that tracks flights. And so we land to a text of, oh, see y'all are here. And so when we get off that flight, I just sit in that arrival. I sit at the arrival gate, as there's no way that I'm going to go and tell them this news in the airport. So I managed to convince Alex to give us the night. And so we tell him we're stuck on the tarmac, and we have him leave the airport. And so her and I have that conversation about like, at least give us the night, let us have a drink, and then we can tell them in the morning.
So we do. We all sit down at the bar at the hotel. Thank God my mom and I both love to drink hot water with lemon at night. So like that wasn't weird that I wasn't drinking. So my mom and I get our hot water with our lemon. The boys get the beers, and we hung out, just all of us. Everyone got to meet Harrison. My mom brought him an Oklahoma mug. And so, it has like the windmills on it, the bison. So we went, we kind of had a moment. And
lovely start.
It was a really lovely start. And so, we all turn in for the night, because the next morning, we're going to start on our DC tours. My mother has been planning DC for months. And so we make it through the night. We don't tell them. Go back to the room. Harrison's like, thank you. I'm like, no problem. All bets are off tomorrow morning though. So we go, the next morning arrives. We go downstairs to have breakfast. And at one point, everyone in the family gets up to leave except for me, Harrison, and my dad, which is perfect, because I typically tell my dad things first. I don't know why. I just do. And so it's the three of us sitting there, and my parents, you guys know this, if you've ever heard my parents speak for more than 5 minutes, what ends up coming out of their mouth is, I just want a grandkid, and I don't care how I get it. And in December, my dad had made a joke, and he was like, all I want is a grandkid. Alex, I don't really care how it happens. So careful what you wish for. So I'm like, got it. So I know I'm about to tell this man some news that's going to make him really happy. So it's the three of us. I look at him and I say, Dad, we've got something to tell you. And he's like, if I had $1, Alex, for the last year of the things you've had to tell me. And I was like, you're going to be really excited about this. And he starts to smile, because he's thinking you're eloping, or if I'm lucky, she's pregnant. So then we're sitting at breakfast with my dad. Okay. And he's like, well, what is it? And he's kind of smiling. And I was like, well, guess. And he's like, no, you tell me. And I said, I'm going to have a baby. And this man, it's like the Grinch, but the Grinch is a really bad example, because the Grinch represents like meanness, but just that smile that grows really big. And he stands up from the table and he walks around to the other side, and he just holds his arms out really wide, and he's like, give me a hug, you two. Harrison's not a hugger, but me and my dad are huggers. So we have like a big hug, and he's just grinning ear to ear, and he's like, oh, I'm so excited. When are you due? And when did you find out? And we're like, yesterday. And he's like, how do you feel? And he's like, when are you going to tell your mom? Because if we've learned anything, it's don't tell dad anything, not mom. Let's loop everybody in.
It was a really special moment and a really heartwarming response from him.
Yeah, and it made me really excited. So then we're going to go on the DC or the White House tour.
And Alex's mom and my mom are very similar. And so my suggestion to Alex was, at some point when y'all are on that tour, before or after, pull her aside and tell her just in a nice, soft way. Did you do that?
No, and we know me. I was like, I could do that, or I could do.
Doesn't listen to nobody.
So the reason Harrison is not going on, we have a bunch of tours planned that weekend, but to go to the White House, you have to submit everybody's passports. Let's just be honest, I don't let Canadians in. I'm just kidding. But no, you have to submit everyone's passports 6 months in advance. So this is the one thing Harrison can't go on. So we go, just my family. So we're on our way, and the whole time my dad, is sitting in the back saying, sometimes he says this on a really good day, but can't nobody bring me down today. And he just keeps saying it over and over again, really loud and like interrupting people in the middle of sentences. And my mom's just turning around like, Joe, what are you talking about? And like him and I are laughing and we're cutting up. Like we're the class cut ups, and it was not good. So we leave the tour and we go to lunch where Harrison meets us, and we sit at a round table, and there's 6 of us total, right? My mom and dad, my brother, his fiance, me, Harrison. I'm seated directly across from my mother, and we sit down, and it's so awkward you tell it because my skin crawls.
And so this is the moment that Alex thinks it's appropriate to tell her mother, and she does so by pulling out her phone and starting to record. And
not good.
Content Kim, being the content queen that she is, right when she sees that phone come out, she counters Alex's phone draw with a phone draw of her own. And now this starts a chain reaction at the table, where then Alex's dad's like, oh, it's about to happen. He pulls out his phone and starts recording. And then Alex's brother does the same thing. So we have 4 phones drawn, and no one's saying anything. And then Alex goes in and she drops the news. Now, when she drops the news, no one has any idea what to think, because no one knows if she's being serious or joking. Because
notoriously, I play a lot of pranks on my mom. Like I told her it was Stevie Wonder. Over her 60th birthday, I told her Stevie Wonder had died, who my parents love, and I recorded it. So when I have my phone out recording, I'm not typically being serious. I didn't think this through. And so my mom's like, you're joking.
The only way that I can describe this situation is Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, where nobody knew if it was a skit, and all anyone knew is it was awkward as hell.
Whether it was or wasn't a skit, it was bad.
And so your dad then clarifies that there's no joke being told. And this is real.
My mom hates when my dad knows things first. So when my dad's like, I got it, I'll solve this situation. And he chimes in and he's like, they told me this morning that Alex really is pregnant. And my mom just turns to him with daggers and is like, you knew? And then it just, everything just goes downhill and kind of blows up.
And all I can really say about it is it's a scene that I hope is one day replicated in a movie.
Yeah, but never in real life for us ever again.
And now the only more awkward way to follow up that lunch was then by doing a tour at the Holocaust Museum. So we then transitioned from surprise baby announcement to the history of 6 million Jews being murdered by Adolf Hitler.
Harrison's, his people.
Gave some commentary as we walked through the museum.
He's like, I'll lead the tour. We all broke. We shouldn't have gone. It's an important museum to go. As for history, we should all know. This isn't the one to follow it up with. We should have foregone the tour. Everyone ended up taking the tour by themselves. My mom's like, I'm good. I'll just sit over here. I'm like, I don't feel good. I'll leave. I think I felt fine. Everyone branches off and takes the tour alone and leaves by themselves as well.
So, I think everyone takes their space.
We can laugh about it now because it ends up like my mom has ordered 20 cribs and is designing 7 baby rooms and couldn't be happier, which is why we're able to tell this.
Yeah. And the power of messaging and telling folks that things that the right way and the respectful way. And that was definitely an area in which we missed the mark. But where I need to give your whole family credit is, we quickly, united over dinner, that night, and had a really good time, and then finished the weekend on a high at breakfast the next day. So some shock and awe, but very short lived, and some pretty funny talking points.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was my fault entirely because of the way Here's the thing: my mom's Super Bowl is her having a grandchild. That woman will thrive taking care of a baby, right? I mean, she is built for it. She's the best at it. And I tell Harrison just the other day, I'm like, I feel like I took that moment from her. But then I realized, I called her, I apologized. I was like, Mom, I'm sorry for my delivery on that. And she's like, yeah, but I get a grandkid. Right. So that's forever. And so while I really messed up that moment and I learned from it, everyone's really excited. So that's how with my family, then we're going to tell Harrison's parents. So simple. He had already done it. He just popped it in the group text.
Yeah. Just dropped it in the group chat. Picture of the pregnancy stick.
I'd never met them.
Sorry, I had to burp.
It's okay. Burp away. Be burping a baby here soon.
So I dropped the photo of the test in the family group chat. And to them, it was a surprise, but it wasn't a massive surprise. And a story that I didn't tell on episode 2, which I think is a good one to share today, is when I went home for the first time after meeting you, I walked into the kitchen after arriving, and my mom was there. And I had this shit-eating grin on my face, and my mom is just like, "What's up? Like, are you high? What are you on? Do you have any extra for me?" And I was like, "No, like I've just met a girl." And she starts to pry, and I'm pretty coy with details, but one of the things that came out of my mouth was, next time you see me, don't be surprised if I'm married or if there's a kid on the way. And she laughs it off, and I laugh it off. And but I think that it really woke her up to, hey, wow, this is different. And a couple of weeks later, when she really sees how fast things are moving, we were having a conversation. And one of the things she said to me is, she said, "Harrison, you're one of the most thoughtful and formulaic people around how you make major life decisions." And I saw that start in high school and transfer to what university you went to and the internships you got, and then working in finance and starting your business. And this is the first time in your life that I've seen you ignore that side of your brain. And, I really hope it's a testament, and believe it's a testament to all your experiences in life, and you really being able to trust your gut, and that you're not just an idiot. And so when we finally dropped the news with them, like, I think they really did see the writing on the wall. And so it was a pretty quick and seamless exchange, and a phone call after the text. And my dad was in a board meeting that day, so he was on a nice little 11-hour delay and get the whole, what'd I miss? And that one was quite a bit less eventful than your family.
Significantly less eventful. And I was like, did you already tell him? And you're like, yeah, we're texting. And then I met your mom like via phone call. And then we obviously went and met them all in person. And it was really lovely. And your family, I love your family. They've been really welcoming to me and helpful. And we're having a shower. Your mom's having a shower for us in Vancouver, and I can't wait. Because everyone keeps asking me if we're having showers. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I haven't decided because I don't know. But that one we are doing. So then we go back to New York because we're going to go meet our doctor. We're going to go do the little thing where they put the jelly on the belly and you see the face.
Oh my God.
You see the photos?
Like pounding my chest, throughout the weekend with her family and telling my family, yeah, like we've got the doctor sorted. We've got New York's best, and I'm feeling good about myself.
We wake up, we've got a 7 a.m. appointment, get up, like so excited to meet the doctor, because it doesn't feel real until you get those little baby pictures, the ones people Instagram. So I'm so excited to get those. So we get there early. I actually have my insurance card, which is a rarity, and we're parents of the year. They take us back. And I was like, oh, it's not a gyno's office, which is weird because there's no stirrups for me to put my feet in. I was sitting on a Winnie the Pooh little, like a 3-foot, looks like it's for a child, one of those beds. I just popped up on it. And Harrison's in the chair beside me. And Finally, the doctor comes in and he's like, what can I do for you guys? And I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. He's like, I'm a pediatrician.
There's no better way to feel like you were unprepared for a child than botching the first doctor's appointment.
And I was like, well, what doctor do you see when you're pregnant? And he's like, you need an OBGYN. And Harrison just gets up and leaves the room because you were so mad at yourself. And you're like calling all the people. I don't know so he just leaves me in there with the guy. And
there's no one to blame on this one other than me.
And
because I was patting myself on the back beforehand that I got the guy.
Yeah. And you don't usually for me, I'm like, this is just another day in the life. No problem. We'll just figure this out later. But Harrison's like, no, we got to be better than this. And I'm like, well, this is fine. And I remember when you left the room, the doctor looked at me and I said, what can you do for me today? And he's like, I can confirm the pregnancy blood test. And I'm like, sure, bro.
And I think this really builds on a theme that will likely be touched on in future episodes, which is, while we put the thought into getting you pregnant, what the thought hadn't been put into was what happens once you get pregnant. And that's when we really were driving blind. And it's been a remarkable few months of learning. And I think sharing those learnings with your listeners will be really, really interesting.
Totally. What can you eat? What can't you eat? How important is sleep? So many different things that we've learned and we've lived. But boy, we left that pediatrician's office. He offered, he was great. He was like, when the kid's here, I'd love to. We're like, thank you. We got into a OBGYN and a gyno the week after, which was great. But that first moment, both of our moms were on call. They were ready to see the photos of the baby. They call. My mom's like, how was it? And I'm like, you're not going to think we can raise a kid based off this next story I'm going to tell you, but we can. She just laughed. She's like, you guys will figure it out. But we really found ourselves in that. We wanted to have a baby, just forgot to prepare for what that could be like. And it hit us in the face. And there's really no better learning than hands-on learning, which is what we've been exercising. From what pants do you wear? Things like that.
Totally.
So now fast forward to today, like what's happened basically is we got a lovely doctor in New York, but we decided maybe New York's not where we want to raise this baby. Cause I wanted to kick a soccer ball, ride a horse. Harrison wants it to play hockey, like just not that it has to do these things, but have the ability to have access to them. And a yard. And my dad calls New York babies concrete babies, which is wonderful. And there is a time and a place for that. Of course, there's a ton of babies there, but I don't know that fits us.
Yeah. So we're in the thick of looking at a few different cities and determining what makes the most sense.
And I think we're really excited for this next chapter. And I wrote you a letter. I'm going to read my letter to you. Okay. Ready? I wrote it on my notes app. Been using that a lot. It says, to Harrison. I said, when we met, I had just come out of the hardest time of my life to date. When I first met you, of course, you intrigued me, but I quickly realized it was because you didn't represent where I was in life, but you represented where I wanted to go. You see life as an adventure. You hold me accountable, sometimes too accountable. I don't know what to do. And you are a man of high character. You've loved me as much as I've loved you since the moment we laid eyes on each other. I always wanted to start a family, but I never felt it until I met you. I wanted it instantly. I know this is unfamiliar to both of us, but there's no one else I'd want to conquer the unfamiliar with. As you told me the first week we met, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. I know we're both a little afraid right now and really excited, but I know you're going to be a wonderful dad, and I can't wait to start this journey with you.
Well, thank you, Alex Hodges. I love you.
I love you too. And you guys, I know this week was just us catching you up to today, but from here, we're going to bring you're going to have a front row seat into the pregnancy journey, what it's like to be parents, I mean, I don't even know what stroller to get. So we kind of got a whole slew of things to figure out. But I am starting to make the registry list. Harrison's like, don't register. And I'm like, people are going to get you a gift anyways. You might as well want it.
Yeah, we don't need any gifts. Thank you very much, though.
But if somebody's going to get you one anyways, it might as well be registered for. That's what I've heard.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, that's fair. I got to figure out if I'm a white SUV mom or a black SUV mom. I know it's a black SUV mom, but I want a little car seat in the back. So everything's changed for the better. We're excited. And as always, I'm not going to tell you what next week's episode is because I'm sure we'll throw a grenade in that somehow. Maybe it'll be a Q&A, but maybe we'll have a guest on. So we'll see. And without further ado, we love you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Just Alex, powered by Just Media House. If you enjoyed the show, which I think you did because you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. All of those things are so important. Stay connected on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook at Just Alex Pod. Post-production by Creative Evolution Studios. Theme song to the Just Alex Pod by Gideon Shawkin and Denisha. I'm Just Alex, you're just you. Let's keep doing this thing. New episodes every Thursday.